So today we are going to talk about fitting it all in, efficiency and productivity. This training is really to help you make the most of your days, to help you focus on the critical tasks, to help you get more done in less time. As women entrepreneurs, our time is precious. We are juggling home, we are juggling family, our business, and then in our business early on, we're wearing all the hats. It's one of the things that often holds us back from our potential is just finding the time to get it all done, right? And I cannot give you more hours in the day, but I can give you some tips to help make it feel that way and get you more efficient and really reevaluating even the tasks that you should be spending your time on and the ones that you can let go to kind of lighten the load and refocus your attention. So the very first step with this, as with all things really, is to weigh the situation. So first things first, you want to determine what your priorities are. We tend to fill our days up with stuff that needs to be done, or it feels like it needs to be done. And the first thing we really need to do is to stop and assess what our goals are, what our priorities are, and then what weight we want to assign to each of the tasks. And you've probably heard the story of the professor that showed his class how, if you have sand, gravel, and the big rocks and you need to fit them in a jar. I'm sure you've heard the story. If you start with the sand and then you add the gravel and then you try and fit the large rocks into the jar, it just won't all fit. But if you put the big rocks in first and then you pour in the gravel sifts into the cracks, right? Fills the gaps. And then you put the sand in last, it's going to sift in between all of it and everything will fit. Your goals and priorities are much the same. So you need to decide what the big rocks are for you. And you want to place those first. And then you want to fill in the gaps with the gravel. And then finally, the sand, which would be like your busy tasks, right? The things that you do, but you don't really need to do, or maybe somebody else could do. So if we extend that analogy, if the sand won't all fit in the jar at the end, at least it's the sand that's left out and not any of those big rocks that were really important. So grab a pen and paper. Let's figure out what those big rocks are for you. We want to know what the non-negotiables are in your life and your schedule that are absolutely top priority. And this may not necessarily even be a business thing. It could be dinner with your family. It could be time to meditate each morning. It could be, taking a run 3 times a week. It might be business. It might be booking your business development day so that you can work through your new plans and ideas. It might be making sure your weekends are free. It might be meeting with your team every Monday morning. It's going to look different for everyone. So you need to make a list of the big rocks on your schedule. So start with the things that are essential for you to meet your goals, both personal and professional. That's the first step. The next step is figuring out where your time is even going at this point. It cannot be just me that gets to the end of the day and wonders where on earth the time went. Tell me it's not just me, please. The first step to getting more efficient is figuring out where you're using your time in the first place. So the next exercise we're going to do is going to help you do that. So I want you to choose 2 pretty typical days on your calendar next week, days that represent how you normally would spend a workday on any given week. I want you to keep a notepad with you all day. It's a kind of it slows you down a little bit and it's a bit of an annoying activity to have to do, but it's so valuable. So bear with me and do this. Keep a notebook with you all day. Keep track of what you're doing every 15 minutes and how much time you are spending doing it. It's a bit tedious, but I promise it's worth the effort. So if you can only do one day, do one day. If you can do 2 days, that's even better. And then once you have 2 days worth of activity tracked, you're going to want to sit down and go through it. And then next to each task, you're going to write a symbol. You can use whatever symbols you want, but I'll give you some here for an example. So you want to put a $ next to the activities that directly create income for you. A $ next to anything that creates income for you. Put a heart next to it if it's an activity that you love to do. Put a star next to it if it's an activity that needs to be done by you. Nobody else could do this. It has to be you. And that might be creating content. That might be, all sorts of things. Maybe client meetings. Those would be things that you might want to put a star next to. Put an X next to it if it's an activity that you dislike doing. You don't like doing it, put an X next to it. And put a P if it's an activity that you could potentially pause or put off for later. Something that doesn't really need to be done right now, put a P next to it. And you're going to have some tasks, they're going to have more than one symbol, right? There might be something that makes you money, but you don't like doing it, or you love doing it, but it could be paused for later, whatever that happens to be. And that's okay. Just don't judge it. Just put your symbols next to it. Now you want to look at those big rocks and those tasks that you track. So step 1 and 2, go back to those. And on the list of tasks, I want you to remove all of the things that you put a P next to. Those are the things that you can pause, you can just stop doing. They won't have much impact on your current business. They're lowest priority, okay? Make a list of those things if you want to revisit them at a later date. Put them somewhere aside so that you haven't lost those tasks or those things that you're going to do. And then you can come back later on and you can decide if they're a higher priority at that point. Then I want you to look at all the jobs that don't have a star next to them. So if they don't have a star next to them, they could be done by someone else, right? The star means that it has to be done by you. So if it doesn't have a star next to it, it can be done by someone else. So of those tasks, which ones can you reassign or delegate or even automate? How do you get them off your list? That's the key. And then look at the items that you've marked with an X. Now, if they're still on your list at this point, it means that you don't like doing them, but they create revenue or they need to be done by you. So they're important. So you may not like doing them. You've got to keep doing them for now, but these are prime activities that you want to start working on so that over time you can move them off your list. Because if you dislike them, you're probably not doing them as well as you should be, or you may be putting them off longer than you should. I can identify these right away because they're the thing that's on my to-do list that gets moved to the next day and the next day and the next day over and over again because I don't want to do them. So you may have to do them for now, but they're likely not in your zone of genius, or they could even be performed better by someone else who does enjoy them. So you can't move them off your list right now, but start thinking about how you can work towards that in the future. So, for example, if you don't like sales calls, but they're making you money, you need to keep doing them for now, but maybe you can work on training someone else to do it. Or can you start implementing a different outreach system that doesn't require direct calls? How do you get that off your list while keeping your sales up? So that's more of the long game, but that's something that you really want to keep an eye to. And then moving forward, you want to take those dollar sign activities, those are the ones that make you money, and you want to book those early in your week or early in your day because those are your revenue generating activities. So they need to be first on your list to keep your business growing. And then the ones that you put a heart next to, those are the ones that you love. Those are ones you want to keep on your list because they fill your cup, they keep you motivated and they feed your passions. So if you plan your days intentionally and you map them out ahead of time, you're going to avoid being ruled by other people's needs, like every single email in your inbox pulling you one way or the other. You're going to minimize distractions. You're going to take care of the tasks that are really the most important to you and your business first. And then you're going to work your way down that priority list as you have the time to do so, right? Now, there's a lot of tips and tricks that can help you create more time in your day. So I've got a few of my favorites here and I'll run through them really quickly for you, Willie. We've got a couple of minutes. So time blocking is my all-time favorite, and it is a game changer. If you're in the comments, let me know if you do time blocking. I absolutely love the time blocking. You get to the end of the day and you have no idea what happened. I know. And I don't know if it's the work or the kids or what it is, or maybe it's just either the mommy brain that never goes away, but oh my goodness, the time slips away. All right, so time blocking. So I've got to tell you, I love a good list. Love it. I have lists of lists that I need to make. But nothing will help you get through your tasks faster and more efficiently than time blocking. So I want you to grab your schedule for tomorrow. And rather than creating a list of things that you need to get done, I want you to take that list of things and actually block the specific time that you need to do it in. So for example, let's say tomorrow you had on your list, you needed to create a new flyer. You needed to run through your finances and your cash flow reports. You wanted to order some stock. You wanted to check your emails. So decide in advance what the best time is to do the tasks and how much time each task will take. So if you look on your planner for tomorrow, block the one that you really hate doing. Let's say it's the cash flow and financials. Let's say you block 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for that task. You've got 1 hour to get it done. So you're going to avoid distractions. You're going to get that one thing that you don't love doing out of the way first, right? So that it's not at the end of the day, you suddenly don't have time to get it done. Do not even open your inbox until you do that one task. Then after that first task is done, give yourself 30 minutes on your calendar, let's say, to open and quickly run through your emails, only dealing with the ones that are a priority for now. And then let's say you know that you lose your creative spark in the afternoon and you're a bit tired, so you're better to do any of your creative work before lunch. So on your calendar for tomorrow, block the next 2 hours, 10:30 to 12:30, to get that flyer done because that's creative time for you and you know that's when you're going to be best suited to doing that. Block some time for your lunch and a quick walk, let's say. And then in the afternoon, you can get on the computer, give yourself 30 minutes to check emails again before a block of 2 hours to order stock. And then you want to put another 30 minutes on your calendar at the end of the day to answer the rest of your emails, let's say. So you're going to plan that all out today. Instead of just having that list of tasks, you are going to have them all scheduled in a specific time block where you're going to get them done. And that is the only thing that you're doing for that particular time. Now, there's a few tips that are built into that particular example that are worth noting. So let me break them out for you. So number one is the time blocking that we talked about. Number two is no task switching. So it's going to save wasted time. It's going to keep you in the right mindset for the task at hand so that you're not distracted. And you can make that even more effective by adding things like setting a timer for the block that you're in. So if you have 1 hour to do those financials in the morning, let's say, you set your timer for 60 minutes when you start. And when that timer goes off, you are done with that task, whether it's finished or not. You're probably going to get it finished because you know you only have an hour. But if you're not, then you block some more time for it the next day and you get it done. Also, if you only check your emails at certain times of the day for a certain period of time, you can turn your inbox off when you're not actively checking it. And I know some people go into a panic as soon as I mention that, but that way you're not tempted to just check that one email. I don't know if you're like me, it's like shiny object syndrome. I see something pop up, a notification, and I just going to see what that's about for a second. And then an hour later, I like, oh my gosh, what happened? I went down the rabbit hole. So if you actually turn off your inbox and you only turn it on for those specific time periods that you're going to be checking your email, then you will not be tempted to check that one email and get sucked into the email vortex. And, if your staff or your key contacts know they need to call you for emergencies rather than email you, you could probably turn off those notifications for chunks of time during the day. A little pro tip for you, if you add a note to your auto reply or your out of office message to let people know that you're going to check your email periodically through the day and you're going to respond at that time, then they know what to expect. So if they email you at 9 o'clock and they get an auto reply saying, I check my messages at noon and 3, then they know that they're not going to hear from you until 1 o'clock and they're not going into a panic. So you could try that if that scares you a little bit. The other thing that makes you really, really efficient, and I love doing this whenever we can, is batching. So think about any tasks that you do over and over again and how you can batch them and do them all at one time and then schedule them out for release. So social media is a great example of this. Create all of your posts and your videos for a whole month in a day or two, and then use a scheduler like Hootsuite or Later to post them for you. If you produce content like blogs, YouTube videos, podcasts, you can block some time to do all the writings and recordings, and then you can take that content and you have 1 or 2 months worth of content ready to schedule up, and you just don't even have to think about it, right? It's all there, it's all done, and you're in that. You've got your videos set up to do all of your recordings. It saves so much time rather than setting up, tearing down, setting up, and tearing down. Time stacking is another favorite one of mine. I do this all the time. So think about things that you can do while you're doing something else to effectively double your efficiency. And moms do this all the time. So how about going for a walk and listening to your podcast, or downloading the audio to a training that you wanted to do and taking it and listening to it in the car, or maybe making your business calls while you're commuting. You could read that PDF you downloaded. I do this one all the time. I print off all of the trainings of the things that I want to do. I take them in the car. And then when I find myself stuck in the car waiting for the pickup line after school or wherever I happen to be that I'm not actually actively driving, then I'll read that PDF training because it's right there and it's handy rather than scrolling through my phone. So just look at where you're spending time that you could use more effectively. Now, by doing that, the caveat to this is just be careful not to overfill your schedule and leave some time for white space for your mind and your body to relax and refresh. It's a balance, and you do need that, that white space, that creative time where your mind just gets a break and it gets to kind of wander. Another great one is to use duct tape. So done is better than perfect. Am I saying you should do a terrible job or sell a half-finished product? No, of course not. But we get paralyzed by perfectionism. We don't put stuff out there because we keep tweaking it and obsessing over it. And at some point you have to say, it's done for now, and get it going, right? You're going to learn so much once you get it out in the world, and you're going to want to make changes and improvements as you see the results, you see the feedback, you get it out into the world. But you're not going to get any of that real world feedback to make your product or service better until you actually get it out into the real world. So done is better than perfect. Get it out there and then come back and revisit and polish it up. Reuse and repurpose. Think about what you have that you can reuse and repurpose to save time. So for example, when you produce content, like blogs or videos or social media posts, how can you reuse that content? So I'll give you an example. I do a live like this once a week. I take the recording from the live, I create a YouTube video, I create video snippets for social media, I create a video blog, a transcript, and an email. You could even use it to create a podcast if you wanted to. That is more than a full week's content from 1 hour video. So think about what you've done before that you can revisit and reuse. And it doesn't have to be just content. Did you have a great promotion that you could run again? Using that old file and those old plans would save you so much time over starting from scratch. Even if you tweak it and freshen it up a little bit, it's still going to save you a ton of time. And if it was really successful, you're starting from a great baseline. Think about what's on your list to do this week and what you have from previous files or projects that you can pull from to save yourself some time. It's a great hack for creating growth. We talk about it in the Grow Faster Masterclass that we do. Keeping a folder of promotions and posts that performed really well, kind of a best of folder that you can pull from. It's going to save you time and it's going to help give you a boost as well. A few other things to keep in mind, and this will actually help your productivity as well, is having a hard stop at the end of the day. If you're like me, you will keep going and going and going until you can't go anymore. Sometimes I'm actually falling asleep on my computer. And you wake up and you've got a bunch of ends across the page because you've literally fallen asleep on the keyboard. So it's not healthy. I don't recommend it. So set a hard stop at the end of your day. Decide ahead of time what is your end time, and maybe it's not 5 o'clock. Maybe that's not realistic for you. Maybe it's 6 o'clock. Maybe it's 7 o'clock. Maybe you're going to have dinner and then have 2 hours in the evening to do some work. Whatever it happens to be, whatever is your schedule and is going to work for you. But make sure you set that hard stop and it's non-negotiable, and that's when the day ends, so that you can take care of yourself. One of my coaches says, number one priority above all of these things is protect the asset. And the asset is you. Because if you cannot function, if you get sick, if you have anxiety attacks, if you have issues because you're not looking after yourself, none of this other stuff matters. So, nothing is going to get done if something happens to you. So yes, you want to be efficient. Yes, you want to get lots done, but you absolutely have to take care of your health and your mindset, because otherwise all of it means nothing. So that's important too.